Do-hyun Park wiped the grease from his hands and stared at the broken translator unit on his workbench. The thing had been giving him trouble for 3 hours now. Outside his small repair shop, the celestial market hummed with life. Thousands of aliens walked past his window every day, speaking languages he couldn't understand, buying and selling things from across the galaxy. He liked it here in the lower levels. Rent was cheap, customers were interesting, and nobody bothered him much. His sister Hana always said he should move the shop to a better location, but Do-hyun was happy where he was. The door chimed. Hana walked in, carrying 2 cups of coffee and wearing her usual bright smile. She was always smiling, always optimistic. It balanced out Do-hyun's more serious nature. "Still fighting with that Grellian piece of junk?" she asked, setting a coffee cup beside him. "It's not junk. It's just complicated." Do-hyun took a sip of coffee and sighed. "What brings you by?" "Elder Thum wants to see us. Says it's important." Do-hyun raised an eyebrow. Elder Thum was one of the oldest beings on the station. A Vrelian who looked like a walking crystal formation. He remembered things from before humans even had space travel. If he wanted to see them, it was serious. They found the old Vrelian in the abandoned entertainment district. The area had once been full of theaters and concert halls, but now most of it sat empty. Buildings that used to shine with light were dark and silent. Elder Thum's crystalline body glowed softly in the dim corridor. When he spoke, his voice sounded like wind chimes. "Thank you for coming. I need your help with something unusual." "We do unusual," Hana said cheerfully. "What's broken?" "Not what, who?" The old being gestured down the corridor. "Follow me." They walked to one of the luxury habitats, its door sealed tight. Through the viewing window, Do-hyun could see a figure sitting completely still in the darkness. The being glowed with a soft, sad light. Beautiful colors flickered across her form, but there was something wrong about it. The light seemed dim, fading. "Her name is Rinny," Elder Thum said quietly. "She is Melodian." "Do you know of them?" Do-hyun knew a little. The Melodians were famous across the galaxy. They were beings made of energy and light, and they communicated through song. Their voices could make you cry with joy or tremble with sorrow. Music wasn't just art for them. It was how they spoke, how they lived, how they existed. She was the greatest singer of her generation. Elder Thum continued. Beings traveled from across the galaxy to hear her perform. I myself wept the first time I heard her voice. It was like hearing the stars sing. "Was?" Hana asked softly. 3 years ago, there was an accident. A plasma conduit exploded on the transport ship she was traveling on. The explosion destroyed her voice synth. Her what? Do-hyun leaned closer to the window. The organ that lets Melodians create sound. Without it, they cannot speak, cannot sing, cannot express emotion or communicate with their own people. For a Melodian, losing your voice is worse than death. It is becoming a ghost while still alive. Do-hyun felt a chill run down his spine. He watched the silent figure in the habitat and tried to imagine what that would be like. To have something to say, something to sing, but no way to let it out. "Can't the doctors fix it?" Hana asked. "Every specialist in the galaxy has examined her. The answer is always the same: impossible. The voice synth is not just an organ. It is part biological, part crystalline, part quantum technology that grew with her from birth. It took 20 years to fully develop. The specialists say it cannot be cloned, cannot be transplanted, cannot be rebuilt. So why call us?" Do-hyun asked, though he already suspected the answer. Elder Thum's glow brightened slightly. "Because humans have a reputation for solving impossible problems. Because you do not accept what others tell you cannot be done. And because," he paused, "because she has been silent for 3 years and I cannot bear to see her suffer anymore." Do-hyun looked at his sister. Hana nodded slowly. They both knew this was crazy. They fixed broken equipment, not broken biology, but they also knew they had to try. "Let me talk to her," Do-hyun said. He knocked on the habitat door. No response. He knocked again. Still nothing. The figure inside didn't move. Do-hyun sat down outside the door. From his bag, he pulled out his geagam, a traditional Korean string instrument his grandmother had given him years ago. He rarely played it for others, but something told him this was the right moment. His fingers moved across the strings, playing an old folk song. The melody was simple and sad, a song about the moon and loneliness. The notes echoed through the empty corridor. He played for 5 minutes, then 10. Just as he was about to give up, he saw movement through the window. The glowing figure had turned toward the door. Colors rippled across her form, faster now. The light grew a bit brighter. The door opened. Rinny stood there and Do-hyun caught his breath. She was beautiful in a way that had nothing to do with human standards of beauty. Her body was made of flowing energy, constantly shifting between soft blues and purples. But there was sadness in every movement, in every flicker of light. She gestured to a tablet on the wall and typed, "Why are you here?" Do-hyun stood up. "Elder Thum asked us to look at your voice synth. I know others have said it can't be fixed, but I'd like to try anyway." The colors on Rinny's form darkened. She typed, "Everyone says that. Then they look at the scans and leave. Maybe. But I'd still like to see for myself." Rinny studied him for a long moment. Then she stepped aside, allowing them to enter. The habitat was bare. No furniture, no decorations. Just empty space and silence. Rinny pulled up her medical files on a holographic display. Do-hyun and Hana studied them carefully. What they saw was horrifying. The voice synth was incredibly complex. Part of it was organic tissue, part crystalline structure, part something else entirely that Do-hyun didn't recognize, and large sections of it were simply gone, destroyed beyond recognition. "I see why they said it was impossible," Hana whispered. But Do-hyun was looking at something else. "Wait, look here," he pointed at the scan. "The root structure is still intact. Damaged, yes, but alive. It's like a tree that's been burned. The branches are gone, but the roots are still in the ground, so," Hana asked. "So maybe we can't regrow what was lost, but maybe we can build something new on top of what remains." Rini typed frantically, "That's not possible. The synth is biological. It has to grow naturally. Who says?" Do-hyun turned to face her. "I'm not trying to rebuild a melodian voice synth. I'm trying to build something that lets you make sound again. It doesn't have to be exactly like what you had before." The colors on Riney's form went completely still. Then she typed one word, "Why?" Do-hyun thought about his grandmother, who had taught him music. He thought about all the times her songs had made him feel less alone. "Because everyone deserves to have their voice heard, and because I don't believe in impossible." For the first time in 3 years, Rinny's aura exploded with bright colors, yellows and golds mixed with deep blues. Hana's translator beeped, identifying the emotions. Hope and terror, mixed together. Hope because maybe, just maybe, this strange human could do what everyone else said was impossible. Terror because hope was the most dangerous thing when you'd learned to live without it. Rinny typed slowly, "When do we start?" Do-hyun smiled. "Tomorrow morning. Get some rest. We have a lot of work ahead of us." As they left the habitat, Elder Thum waited outside. His crystalline form glowed with curiosity. "Well?" he asked. "We're going to try," Do-hyun said. "I can't promise it will work, but we're going to try." Elder Thum's glow brightened. "That is all I ask. That is more than anyone else has offered." Walking back to their shop, Hana was quiet. Finally she spoke. "Do you really think we can do this?" Do-hyun looked up at the artificial sky of the space station. Somewhere out there were billions of stars, billions of worlds. "I don't know, but we have to try." "She's been silent for 3 years, Hana." 3 years? Can you imagine?" Hana shook her head. "No, I really can't." "Then let's make sure she doesn't have to be silent anymore." That night, Do-hyun couldn't sleep. He kept thinking about the scans, about the damaged synth, about Rinny's colors flickering between hope and fear. Every expert in the galaxy had said it was impossible, but humans had a long history of doing impossible things. They'd climbed mountains that couldn't be climbed. They'd cured diseases that couldn't be cured. They'd reached for the stars when everyone said they never would. Maybe, just maybe, they could give one silent Siren her voice back. He picked up his Geogium and played softly in the darkness. Tomorrow the real work would begin. Do-hyun's shop looked like a mad scientist's laboratory. Papers covered every surface. Holographic displays floated in the air showing complex diagrams, and strange equipment from a dozen different alien species cluttered the workbenches. In the center of it all, Do-hyun and Hana worked late into the night. It had been 2 weeks since they'd started the project. 2 weeks of research, testing, and countless failures. Do-hyun had learned more about melodian biology than any human had ever known. The problem was, there simply wasn't much information available. The melodians guarded their biological secrets closely, considering them sacred. "This is impossible," Hana said, rubbing her tired eyes. We're missing too much information about how the synth actually works. Do-hyun stared at a holographic model of the damaged voice synth. Then we approach it differently. We don't need to understand melodian biology perfectly. We need to understand sound. What do you mean? Sound is sound, no matter what species makes it. It's vibration, frequency, resonance. The synth is just a very complex musical instrument. And instruments? Those I understand. He pulled up new diagrams, these showing acoustic principles, harmonic frequencies, and resonance chambers. Where other specialists had focused on recreating the exact biological structure, Do-hyun was thinking about the function. What did the synth actually do? It converted neural signals into sound waves through a combination of organic tissue, crystalline resonators, and quantum harmonic generators. So we build a hybrid system, Do-hyun said, his excitement growing. We use what's left of her organic synth as the foundation. Then we add artificial components to replace what was destroyed. Hana frowned. What kind of components? Grelian crystal resonators for the harmonic chambers. Grelian quantum processors for the signal conversion. Human cybernetic interfaces to connect it all to her neural system. And some good old-fashioned acoustic engineering to tie it together. You want to mix technologies from 4 different species? Hana looked shocked. No one does that. It could be dangerous. Exactly. No one does it. That's why every specialist failed. They were trying to recreate what was lost. We're going to create something new. The shop door chimed. Rini entered, moving silently as always. She came by every day now, watching them work. At first, she'd just observed. But gradually, she'd started helping, using her tablet to share information about melodian acoustics that no database contained. She typed on her tablet. You look excited. Good news? Do-hyun grinned. Maybe, I have an idea. It's crazy, but it might work. He explained his plan. As he talked, Rini's colors shifted rapidly. Blues and purples mixed with flashes of gold and red. The translator identified the emotions: curiosity, hope, fear, and something else. Excitement, maybe. When he finished, Rini was quiet for a long time. Then she typed, It won't be a real melodian voice. No, Do-hyun admitted. It won't. It'll be something different. A hybrid. Part melodian, part everything else. Will I still sound like myself? I don't know. But you'll have a voice. That's what matters, isn't it? Rini's aura dimmed slightly. She typed, I need to show you something. She pulled up a video file. It showed a massive concert hall filled with thousands of beings from dozens of species. On stage, a glowing melodian figure sang. The voice was impossible to describe. It wasn't just sound. It was emotion made physical. As the siren sang, visible waves of color rippled through the audience. Some beings wept, others swayed as if in a trance. The song spoke of joy and sorrow, of love and loss, of hope and despair. Do-hyun realized he was crying. He wiped his eyes, embarrassed. Rini typed, That was me. 5 years ago. That was my voice. It was beautiful, Hana whispered. Now you understand, Rini typed. That's what I lost. How can anything you build compare to that? Do-hyun thought carefully before answering. It can't, I won't lie to you. Whatever we build won't be exactly like what you had before. But Rini, he paused. You've been silent for 3 years. Isn't any voice better than no voice at all? The colors on Rini's form swirled in chaos. Then slowly they settled into a soft blue. She typed, Yes, any voice is better than silence. Let's do it. The next 4 weeks were intense. Do-hyun traveled to different parts of the station, buying components from various alien merchants. Grelian crystals that resonated at specific frequencies. Grelian quantum processors small enough to integrate with organic tissue. Human cybernetic interfaces designed for neural connections. Hana worked on the surgical aspects. The procedure would be delicate. They'd have to integrate artificial components with living tissue without damaging what remained of the original synth. One mistake could destroy everything. Rini taught them about melodian music theory. She showed them recordings of different songs, explaining how certain frequencies created specific emotional responses. She shared knowledge that had been kept secret from other species for centuries. One evening, as they worked late, Rini typed a question. Why are you doing this? Do-hyun looked up from his work. What do you mean? You're spending all your time on this. Your shop is closed. You're not making money. You barely sleep. Why? Do-hyun thought about it. My grandmother used to tell me a story. She was a singer in Korea before she came to America. Traditional pansori singing. When she immigrated, people told her to forget the old ways, but she refused. She kept singing, kept teaching. She said that losing your voice means losing part of your soul. He looked at Rini. You lost your voice 3 years ago, but you didn't lose your soul. It's still there, trapped inside, desperate to be heard. How could I not try to help? Rini's aura glowed bright gold. The translator identified it as gratitude mixed with something deeper. Friendship, maybe. Or trust. In the quiet moments, Do-hyun would play his Gaiagam. Simple melodies, nothing fancy. But he noticed that Rini's aura responded to certain notes more strongly than others. He started experimenting, playing different scales and rhythms. Slowly, he began to understand the relationship between sound and melody and emotion. 6 weeks after they'd started, they were ready for the first test. It would be a partial restoration only. They'd integrate some of the basic components and see if they could get any sound at all. If this worked, they'd know the concept was viable. If it failed, well, they'd deal with that if it happened. The procedure took place in a small medical bay Hana had rented. Rini lay on the surgical table, conscious but calm. For Melodians, the voice synth was connected directly to their nervous system. She had to be awake for the integration. Hana's hands moved with precision, guided by holographic displays showing the internal structure. Connecting the first crystal resonator, she said quietly. Neural interface. Integrating now. Rini's aura flickered with discomfort, but she remained still. Do-hyun monitored the acoustic readings. Resonance patterns are stable. Harmonic frequencies within acceptable range. Ready for activation. Hana looked at Rini. This might hurt. Are you ready? Rini's colors pulsed once in affirmation. Activating in 3, 2, 1. For a moment, nothing happened. Do-hyun held his breath. His instruments showed energy flowing through the new components, but there was no sound. Then, a note. Pure and clear, but rough around the edges. It wavered, cutting in and out like a bad radio signal. But it was sound. After 3 years of silence, it was sound. Rini's entire form exploded with color. Gold and silver and brilliant white. Every emotion at once, joy, shock, disbelief, fear, hope, all mixing together in a chaotic display. She tried to form words, but the system wasn't stable enough yet. The note wavered and died, leaving silence again. But everyone in the room knew what they'd just witnessed. Proof that the impossible was possible. Rini grabbed her tablet with shaking energy tendrils. She typed, I felt it. After 3 years, I felt my voice. Her aura dimmed and flickered. Melodians didn't cry with tears. They cried with light, their bodies pulsing between bright and dark as emotion overwhelmed them. Rini was crying now, her form flickering like a candle in the wind. Hana hugged her gently. Do-hyun felt tears on his own face. This is just the beginning, he said. We proved it can work. Now we have to make it stable. But even as they celebrated, word was spreading through the station. A human repair technician was attempting something every expert had called impossible. He was tampering with sacred Melodian biology, mixing alien technologies in ways that had never been done before. Some watched with hope, others with concern, and on the distant Melodian homeworld, certain individuals were hearing about this development with growing alarm. The voice synth project had caught the attention of people who believed that some things should remain impossible, that some silences should never be broken. But for now, in the small medical bay on Celestial Market, none of that mattered. All that mattered was the sound they'd heard. One single, imperfect note that proved 3 years of silence could end. Rini looked at Do-hyun and Hana, her aura glowing with gratitude and determination. They had a long way to go. But they'd taken the first step, and sometimes that first step was all you needed to believe the journey was possible. The delegation from the Melodian homeworld arrived without warning. 3 ships bearing official diplomatic markings docked at Celestial Market's main port. By the time Do-hyun heard about it, they were already on their way to his shop. Elder Thum appeared at the shop door, his crystalline form glowing with urgency. They are here for Rini, he said. The Prime Singer herself has come. Prime Singer? Hana asked. The leader of all Melodian culture. She was Rini's teacher, and she is not happy about what you are doing. Before anyone could respond, 6 Melodian figures swept into the shop. They moved like living light, their forms brilliant and commanding. At their center was a being who shone brighter than the others, Her colors were pure and perfect, her presence filling the entire room. Prime singer Velana. When she spoke, her voice was crystalline perfection. Each word resonated with harmonics that made Do-hyun's chest vibrate. This was what a true melodian voice sounded like. It was beautiful beyond description. "Where is Renatha?" Velana demanded. "She's not here right now," Do-hyun said, trying to keep his voice steady. "Can I help you with something?" "You are the human who is tampering with her voice synth." "I'm trying to repair it, yes." "Repair?" Velana's voice dripped with scorn. "You cannot repair what was never meant to be repaired. The voice synth is sacred. It develops over 20 years, growing with us from birth. It is as much a part of us as our consciousness itself. What you are doing is blasphemy." Hana stepped forward. "With respect, we're trying to help. Rini has been silent for 3 years. Doesn't she deserve She deserves to maintain her dignity," Velana interrupted. "If a melodian cannot sing with a true voice, they should accept their silence with grace. That is our way. That is our culture." Do-hyun felt anger rising in his chest. "Your culture? What about her choice? You understand nothing, human. You have been part of the galactic community for barely a century. My people have maintained our traditions for millions of years. We do not change them because one individual suffers misfortune." The shop door opened. Rini entered, then froze when she saw Velana. Her aura immediately shifted to dark blues and grays. Fear and shame mixed together. Velana turned to her former student. When she spoke, her voice was softer but no less firm. "Renatha, my brightest student, I was told you were allowing these humans to desecrate your body with alien technology." Rini grabbed her tablet with trembling energy tendrils. She typed, "They are trying to help me." "Help? By making you into an abomination? By mixing our sacred biology with crude artificial components? Renatha, if you cannot sing as a true melodian, you should not sing at all." Rini's colors flickered wildly. She typed frantically, "I have been silent for 3 years. 3 years of not being able to speak, to express, to exist as myself. Don't you understand what that's like? I understand that some losses cannot be reversed. I understand that accepting what cannot be changed is part of wisdom." "Then you understand nothing." The typed words hung in the air. Velana's aura dimmed slightly. For a moment, she looked almost hurt. "I taught you everything, Renatha. I trained you from childhood. You were my greatest achievement. And now I am your greatest disappointment." A human voice interrupted the tense silence. Captain Jiho Nam entered the shop, wearing his diplomatic uniform. Behind him came several other human officials. Prime singer Velana. "I'm Captain Jiho Nam of the Human Diplomatic Corps. I wasn't aware you'd be visiting our section of the station." Velana turned her attention to the captain. "This matter concerns Melodian citizens. It is not a diplomatic issue. With respect, it becomes a diplomatic issue when you arrive unannounced to interfere with work being done by human citizens. Rini is an adult. She has the right to make her own medical decisions. Medical decisions that violate our cultural and religious beliefs." Jiho remained calm. "I understand your concerns, but surely this is a matter for Rini to decide, not the Melodian government." Velana's form blazed brighter. "If she proceeds with this abomination, she will be cast out from Melodian society. She will never be allowed to return to our homeworld. She will be considered dead to our people." The threat hung heavy in the air. Rini's aura went completely dark, almost invisible. She swayed slightly as if the words had physical weight. Velana and her delegation left. The silence they left behind was crushing. Rini stood motionless for a long time. Then she quietly left the shop without typing a word. Do-hyun moved to follow, but Jiho stopped him. "Give her time. That was a lot to process." "They threatened to disown her," Hana said, her voice shaking with anger. "Her own people. Cultural preservation versus individual rights," Jiho said quietly. "It's a tale as old as civilization. Every species faces it eventually." That night, when Rini didn't return to the shop, Do-hyun went to her habitat. He found her sitting in the darkness, her aura barely visible. He knocked gently. The door opened. On her tablet, a single message was displayed. "Maybe they are right. Maybe I should accept what I lost." Do-hyun sat down beside her. For a while, he said nothing. Then he began to speak. "My grandmother was a pansori singer, traditional Korean opera. When she came to America, people told her to give it up. Learn American songs, they said. Fit in. Don't be different. Rinny's aura flickered slightly, showing she was listening. She refused. She kept singing the old songs, even when people didn't understand them, even when they said she was being stubborn or living in the past. She taught me that holding on to your voice, your true self, is the bravest thing anyone can do. He looked at Rinny. Velana says you should accept silence with dignity. But what's dignified about losing yourself? What's noble about giving up who you are? Rinny typed slowly. But I will lose my people, my culture, my home. Maybe, or maybe you'll help your people grow. Change isn't always bad, Rinny. Sometimes it's necessary. I am afraid. I know. But you've been silent for 3 years because of fear. Fear of hope, fear of failure, fear of change. How much longer will you let fear decide who you are? Rinny's aura began to glow brighter. Blues shifted to purples, then to golds. Her colors swirled in complex patterns. She typed, "If I do this, I cannot go back. I will become something new. Something that is not fully Melodian anymore. No, you'll become something more. You'll be Rinny. Not defined by what you lost, but by what you chose to become." For a long time, Rinny didn't respond. Then her aura exploded with brilliant light, every color at once burning bright and fierce. Let's finish the synth. The next morning, they returned to work with renewed determination. Word had spread about Velana's ultimatum, and the station was buzzing with gossip. Some supported the Melodian position. Others supported Rinny's right to choose. The work took 3 more weeks. 3 weeks of delicate surgery, careful calibration, and constant testing. Hana integrated the cybernetic components with Rinny's neural system. Do-Yun fine-tuned the acoustic properties, adjusting frequencies and harmonics until they matched Rinny's natural patterns. The hybrid synth grew stronger with each day. It wasn't like the original. It couldn't be. But it was becoming something unique, something that had never existed before. On the day of the full activation, the medical bay was crowded. Elder Thum was there, along with Captain Jiho and several other humans who'd been following the project. Even some of the alien merchants from the lower levels had come to watch. The procedure was complex and would take hours. Rinny lay on the surgical table, her aura pulsing with nervous energy. She typed one final message before they began. "Thank you. Whatever happens, thank you for giving me hope." Do-Yun squeezed her energy tendril gently. "We're going to give you more than hope. We're going to give you your voice back." The activation process began. Hour after hour they worked, integrating components, calibrating systems, testing responses. Everything seemed to be going well. Then at hour 11, something went wrong. Alarms blared. The quantum harmonic processor began to fail, creating a cascade effect that threatened to damage the entire system. "We have to abort," Hana shouted. "If we don't shut it down now, we could lose everything." Do-Hyun stared at the readings. If they aborted, all their work would be lost. They'd have to start over from the beginning. But if they pushed forward and failed, the damage could be permanent. He had seconds to decide. His eyes fell on the auxiliary system he'd designed as a backup. It was untested, risky, but it might work. Rerouting power through auxiliary channel. He shouted, his hands flying over the controls. "Do-Hyun, we don't know if that will—" "Trust me!" The synth flared with brilliant light. Rinny's entire body went rigid. Energy crackled around her form. The light grew so bright that everyone had to look away. Then, silence. Complete. Absolute silence. The light faded. Rinny lay motionless on the table, her aura gone completely dark. For a horrible moment, Do-Hyun thought they'd lost her. Then Rinny's eyes opened. Her aura began to glow, slowly at first, then brighter and brighter. Colors bloomed across her form like flowers opening to the sun. And she spoke. Just one word, rough and uncertain, but clear as crystal. "Do-Yun." The room erupted. People cheered. Hana hugged her brother, tears streaming down her face. Elder Thum's crystalline form chimed with joy. Rinny sat up slowly. She looked at her hands, at the people around her. Then she opened her mouth and spoke again. "I can speak. I can hear my own voice." Her voice was different from before. It carried harmonics that no pure melodian could produce. There were echoes of the various technologies integrated into the synth. Crystalline Vrelian undertones, quantum Grelian resonances, and something distinctly human. It wasn't the voice she'd lost, But it was beautiful in its own way. It was uniquely hers. After 3 years of silence, the siren had found her voice again. Speaking and singing were two very different things. Rini discovered this truth quickly. She could form words now, could have conversations without her tablet. But when she tried to sing, the hybrid synth responded in unexpected ways. Notes came out wrong. Harmonics she intended didn't happen. The connection between thought and sound wasn't natural yet. It was frustrating. After dreaming of singing for 3 years, she found herself struggling with the basics. One morning, she threw her hands up in defeat. "This is impossible. I can't control it." Do-hyun looked up from his workbench. "You're trying too hard. You're thinking of the synth as separate from yourself. It's not. It's part of you now. It doesn't feel like part of me. It feels like wearing someone else's clothes. Then we need to help you get comfortable with it. Like learning to walk again, but with your voice." They started with simple exercises, scales, single sustained notes. Do-hyun used his acoustic knowledge to help Rini understand how her new voice worked. The hybrid synth had capabilities no pure melodian voice possessed. She could hit frequencies that shouldn't exist, create harmonics that her species had never produced, but she had to learn to control it. Every day for 2 weeks they practiced. Rini would attempt exercises. Do-hyun would analyze the acoustic output and help her adjust. Hana would fine-tune the cybernetic interfaces when needed. Slowly, progress came. A note held steady. A scale completed without error. A simple melody performed successfully. One evening, after a particularly good session, Rini sat quietly. Her aura glowed with soft, contemplative colors. "What are you thinking about?" Do-hyun asked. "My voice is different. Not just different from before. Different from any melodian who ever lived. These harmonics, these frequencies, they're new. Is that bad?" Rini thought for a moment. "No, just different. I'm becoming something I never expected to be." "That's not a bad thing. Sometimes the best things in life are the ones we never planned for." A few days later, Rini made an unexpected request. She found Do-hyun working on a repair job and waited until he noticed her. "What's up?" he asked. "I want you to sing with me." Do-hyun nearly dropped the tool he was holding. "What?" "No, I'm not a singer. I just play instruments as a hobby. I fix things for a living. You gave me back my voice. Now I want to hear yours." "Rini, I'm not—" "Please. In melodian culture, a duet is sacred. It's how two souls recognize each other as kindred. You've done so much for me. Let me share this with you." Do-hyun felt his face grow warm. He wanted to refuse, but something in Rini's aura, a soft, hopeful gold, made him reconsider. "Okay, but don't expect anything amazing. My voice is very human." Rini's aura brightened. "That's exactly what I want." They chose a simple melody, a Korean folk song about the moon that Do-hyun had learned from his grandmother. The tune was gentle and sad, speaking of loneliness and longing. Do-hyun began to play his gayagam, fingers moving across the strings with practiced ease. Then he started to sing. His voice was rough, untrained. Nothing like the crystal perfection of a melodian singer, but it was honest and heartfelt. Rini joined in, her hybrid voice weaving around his. At first they didn't quite match. But then something clicked. Her voice found harmonics that complemented his rough human tones. His melody provided an anchor for her soaring notes to orbit around. They weren't trying to sound the same. They were learning to sound good together. Two very different voices creating something neither could produce alone. The song ended. Do-hyun felt strangely emotional. He wiped his eyes quickly, hoping Rini wouldn't notice. She noticed. "That was beautiful," she said softly. It was clumsy and off-key in places. It was real. That's better than perfect. Unknown to them, someone had been recording. A merchant in the corridor outside had captured audio of their duet and posted it on the station's social network. By morning, the recording had spread across Celestial Market. By afternoon, it had spread to other stations. By evening, beings across the galaxy were listening to a simple folk song performed by a human repair technician and a siren with a broken voice. People couldn't explain why it moved them so much. Perhaps it was the imperfection. Perhaps it was the story they knew behind it. Perhaps it was simply the sound of two beings from different worlds finding harmony. Elder Thum visited the shop the next day, his crystalline form glowing with excitement. "Have you seen the response? Everyone is talking about your song." Do-hyun groaned. "It was just a practice session. We weren't trying to perform for anyone." Sometimes the best art happens when you're not trying. But there is news. The Grand Celestial Performance is in 2 weeks. The what? An annual event where the galaxy's greatest musicians perform. It is broadcast to billions, and you have been invited to perform. Absolutely not, Do-hyun said immediately. The invitation came from prime singer Villana herself. That made everyone freeze. Rini's aura shifted to dark colors. Villana, who had threatened to disown her, was now inviting them to perform? Elder Thum continued. She issued a formal challenge. She says if Rini truly believes her hybrid voice is legitimate, she should prove it at the grand performance. She expects you to fail publicly. It's a trap, Hana said. She wants to humiliate you. Probably, Elder Thum agreed. But it is also an opportunity. If you succeed, you prove that hybrid voices have value. You show the galaxy that change and tradition can coexist. Rini was quiet for a long time. Her aura cycled through colors rapidly. Fear, anger, determination, hope, all mixed together. Finally, she spoke. I'll do it. But only if Do-hyun performs with me. What? No. Rini, I can't. You fixed my synth so I could sing. Not so I could sing the same old songs in the same old ways. You gave me something new. We should show them what that means. Captain Jiho arrived at the shop later that day. I heard about the invitation. This could be important for humanity's reputation in the galactic community. I'm not a diplomat, Do-hyun protested. I'm a repair technician who plays music badly. You're the human who fixed something every expert called impossible. You're the person who gave a silent siren her voice back. That matters more than perfect technique. Hana grabbed her brother's shoulders. Do it not for politics or reputation. Do it because Rini needs you. Because what you two created together is worth sharing. Do-hyun looked at Rini. Her aura glowed with hope and determination. She wasn't asking him to be perfect. She was asking him to be there to stand beside her as she faced her greatest fear. He sighed. Okay, but we need to practice. A lot. They had 2 weeks to prepare. 2 weeks to create something that could stand alongside the galaxy's greatest performers. They didn't try to recreate traditional melodian music. Instead, they composed something new, a fusion piece that combined melodian harmonic structures with Korean musical traditions. It was a song about loss and rebirth, about silence and sound, about having the courage to become something new. Do-hyun taught Rini about pansori vocal techniques, the traditional Korean opera his grandmother had loved. The style emphasized emotion over perfection, story over technical skill. It was perfect for what they were trying to create. Rini taught Do-hyun about melodian harmonic principles, how certain frequencies created specific emotional responses, how songs could be felt as much as heard. They practiced until their voices grew hoarse. They experimented with different harmonies, different rhythms, different emotional textures. Slowly the song took shape. It wasn't like anything either species had created before. It was rough in places, imperfect in others. But it was honest. It was real. It was theirs. The night before the performance, Do-hyun couldn't sleep. He lay in bed staring at the ceiling, terrified. Tomorrow he'd be performing in front of billions of beings. What if he forgot the words? What if his voice cracked? What if they failed? His communicator buzzed. A message from Rini. Are you awake? I'm scared too. He smiled despite his nerves. What if we mess up? Then we mess up together. That's what a duet is. 2 voices supporting each other. You won't let me fall and I won't let you fall. When did you become so wise? I had 3 years of silence to think. And I had a stubborn human who refused to accept impossible as an answer. You taught me that fear is just another challenge to overcome. Do-hyun felt some of his anxiety ease. She was right. They weren't doing this alone. They were doing it together. Get some sleep. Tomorrow we show the galaxy what a human and a siren can create together. Tomorrow we show them that broken things can become beautiful. Do-hyun finally fell asleep, his grandmother's words echoing in his mind. Hold on to your voice. Hold on to who you are. Tomorrow, he and Rini would do exactly that. They'd sing not to prove anything to anyone else, but to celebrate what they'd created together. A voice that was neither purely human nor purely melodian, but something new, something that could only exist because they'd refused to accept that some silences were permanent. The Aurora Hall was the most famous performance space in the galaxy, built centuries ago by the first melodians to join the galactic community. It could hold 50,000 beings and had perfect acoustics that amplified every sound to perfection. Tonight it was packed beyond capacity. Beings from hundreds of species filled every seat, and billions more watched on broadcast across countless worlds. Backstage, Do-hyun tried to calm his racing heart. His hands shook as he adjusted his simple clothes. Everyone else performing tonight wore elaborate costumes, but he'd chosen to dress plainly. A simple shirt and pants, his grandmother's gayagam in his hands. Rini floated beside him, her aura flickering with nervous energy. Golds and silvers mixed with darker blues. I can't believe we're actually doing this, Do-hyun muttered. We don't have to. We could leave right now. No one would blame us. He looked at her. Would you want to? Rini was quiet for a moment. Then her aura brightened. No, I've been silent long enough. It's time to let people hear what I've become. They watched the other performances on a monitor. First came the Thren, creating sonic sculptures in the air that looked like frozen music. Then the Klaxians performed rhythmic poetry that made the entire hall vibrate. Each act was masterful, perfect in its execution. Then prime singer Velana took the stage. Her voice was everything a melodian voice should be. Crystal clear, perfectly controlled, hitting harmonics with mathematical precision. She sang a traditional melodian piece about the birth of stars. The song was ancient, sacred, and performed flawlessly. When she finished, the audience erupted in applause. The message was clear. This is what real melodian singing sounds like. Hana appeared backstage, giving Do-hyun a tight hug. You're going to be amazing. Both of you, Do-hyun tried to smile. She just proved what a real melodian voice sounds like. We can't compete with that. You're not competing, you're sharing. There's a difference. An announcer's voice echoed through the hall. And now a very special performance. Please welcome Rin Atha, the melodian singer who was silent for 3 years, and Do-hyun Park, the human who gave her voice back. The audience reaction was mixed. Some applauded politely. Others whispered skeptically. Many simply waited to see what would happen. Do-hyun and Rini walked onto the stage. The lights were bright, the crowd massive. Do-hyun felt every eye in the hall watching them. Judging them, he sat down, placing the gayagam across his lap. His hands were still shaking. He took a deep breath, remembering his grandmother's advice. Music isn't about being perfect. It's about being honest. He began to play. The simple melody filled the hall, distinctly human in its structure. Some in the audience looked confused. This wasn't the kind of music they expected. Then Rini began to sing. Her voice was immediately different from Velana's. It wasn't perfect. It had rough edges, unexpected harmonics, frequencies that shouldn't exist. The hybrid synth created sounds no natural melodian voice could produce. Some in the audience shifted uncomfortably. This wasn't traditional. This wasn't pure, but then something happened. As Rini sang, her aura began to pulse in rhythm with the music. Colors bloomed and flowed, creating visible waves of emotion that rippled through the air. This was something even the most powerful melodian singers struggled to achieve, and many thought it impossible with a hybrid synth. Do-hyun joined in, his rough human voice blending with Rini's ethereal tones. They weren't trying to sound the same. They were creating harmony from difference. His voice provided an anchor, grounding her soaring notes. Her voice added layers of emotion to his simple melody. The song told a story. It spoke of silence and the fear of never being heard. It sang of loss and the courage to accept what cannot be changed. It celebrated rebirth and the bravery needed to become something new. The waves of emotion from Rini's aura washed over the audience. Joy mixed with sorrow. Hope intertwined with pain. It was raw and honest in ways that perfect music rarely achieved. Beings from species who had never responded to melodian singing found themselves moved. A Thren in the third row began to weep silently. A Klaxian couple held each other tightly. Even some of the skeptical faces in the crowd softened. The song built to its peak. Rini hit a note that shouldn't be possible, a harmonic that existed between frequencies created only by the hybrid technology. The Aurora Hall's ancient acoustics caught it, amplified it, made it resonate until it seemed like the stars themselves were singing. Do-hyun's voice wove through the impossible note, humanizing it, making it feel both alien and familiar at once. Together, they held the moment. Two voices from different worlds creating something that neither species had ever produced alone. Then, slowly, the song resolved. The wild emotion settled into peaceful acceptance. The final notes were gentle, almost whispered, a promise that silence had ended, that voices once lost could be found again, that broken things could become beautiful. The last note faded into silence. Do-hyun and Riney stood there, hand and energy tendril clasped, breathing hard. For a long moment the hall was completely quiet. Too quiet. Do-hyun felt his heart sink. They'd failed. The silence was judgment. Then Elder Thum stood up. The ancient Vrelian began to sing, a crystal chime of approval, the highest honor his species could give. One by one others joined. Not applause but song, each species adding their voice in their own unique way. The Thren added deep, resonant bass tones. The Klaxians contributed their rhythmic calls. Humans in the audience began to sing in dozens of different languages. Even some melodians stood up, their voices joining the spontaneous chorus. It was chaotic, unplanned, imperfect. But it was also beautiful. It was celebration not of perfection but of diversity, not of tradition but of growth. Velana approached the stage. The hall quieted, everyone waiting to hear what the prime singer would say. Her expression was unreadable. She looked directly at Rinny. "I came here to prove you wrong," Velana said, her voice carrying to every corner of the hall. "I came to show that traditions must be preserved unchanged. That hybrid voices could never match the purity of our natural gifts." She paused, and for the first time, emotion cracked through her composed exterior. "But I heard something tonight that I haven't heard in centuries. Growth. Change. Our people have spent so long preserving what we were. We forgot to imagine what we could become." She turned to Do-hyun. "You humans are reckless. You break things that others consider sacred. You have no respect for the way things have always been done, but—" Her voice softened. "You're also brave enough to build something new from the broken pieces. Perhaps that's what the galaxy needs." She looked back at Rini. "You're not less melodian because of what happened to you. You're just more. You're everything you were plus everything you've become. And perhaps that's what our people should aspire to. Not preservation of the past, but integration with the future." Rini's aura exploded with color. Gold and silver and brilliant white. She tried to speak but couldn't find words. Velana continued. "The Melodian Council will officially recognize hybrid voices as legitimate. You will not be cast out. You will be welcomed home should you wish to return." The hall erupted in genuine applause now. Cheers and calls from dozens of species, celebrating not just the performance but what it represented. Backstage after it was over, Do-hyun collapsed into a chair. His entire body shook with leftover adrenaline. Hana hugged him tightly. "You did it. You were amazing." Captain Jiho grinned. "The Human Diplomatic Corps will be talking about this for years. You just changed how the galaxy views us." But Do-hyun was looking at Rainey. Her aura glowed with pure, uncomplicated joy. For the first time since he'd met her, there was no darkness in her colors. No fear, no shame, no uncertainty. Just happiness. She spoke softly. "Thank you. For everything. You did the hard part. I just provided the tools. No. You gave me something more important than tools. You gave me hope when I had none. You refused to accept my silence as permanent. You showed me that broken things can become beautiful." In the days that followed, everything changed. The recording of their performance became one of the most viewed pieces of art in galactic history. Requests flooded in from other injured Melodians, asking if similar procedures might help them. Several other species reached out, asking if human engineers could tackle their impossible problems. Rini opened a school on Celestial Market, a place where beings from different species could learn to make music together, where tradition and innovation could coexist. Her first student was a young Melodian who'd suffered an accident similar to hers. This time, Rini could offer something no one had offered her 3 years ago: hope. Do-hyun and Hana kept their small repair shop. They resisted offers to expand, to franchise, to become famous. They liked their quiet corner of the station, taking on cases that others called impossible. Though Do-hyun did make one change. He moved his Gayagam from the back room to the front window, a reminder that some of the most important repairs had nothing to do with broken equipment. 6 months later, on a quiet evening, Do-hyun and Rennie returned to the Aurora Hall. It was empty now, the lights dim. They'd been invited to perform again at next year's grand performance, but tonight they were here alone. Just to practice, just to remember. They began to sing together, their voices filling the vast space. Halfway through the song, Rini stopped. Do-hyun lowered his gayagum. "What's wrong?" he asked. Her aura glowed with warm colors. "Nothing. Nothing at all. I was just thinking. For 3 years, I was afraid I'd never sing again. Now I'm afraid I'll never want to stop." Do-hyun smiled. "Then don't stop. That's the whole point, isn't it? You spent 3 years in silence. Now you get to spend the rest of your life making noise." "Making noise with you mean? Is there any other way?" They resumed singing. Two voices from different worlds creating harmony from difference. The sound echoed through the empty hall, bouncing off ancient walls built to amplify melodian voices. But these walls had never heard anything quite like this before. Something new. Something that couldn't exist without both of them. Outside the hall, various aliens paused in their travels to listen. They didn't all understand the music. They came from dozens of species, each with different concepts of beauty, different ideas of what music should sound like. But they understood what it represented. The possibility of becoming more than you were, the courage to embrace change even when it scared you, the beauty that could emerge when different voices chose to sing together instead of alone. In the human quarters of Celestial Market, someone updated the unofficial station motto board. Among dozens of sayings from various species, a new line appeared. "Humans will fix what everyone else says is broken, and will probably make it better in the process." Below it, someone else had added, "Not because we're smarter or stronger, but because we refuse to accept that anything is truly impossible." And in a small repair shop in the lower levels, a sign flickered in the window. "Park and Choi Universal Repairs. No job too strange." Below it, a new line had been added in Do-hyun's handwriting, especially the impossible ones, because that's what humans did. They took things everyone else called broken beyond repair and found a way to make them sing again. Sometimes literally. And somewhere in the galaxy, a crying siren who'd refused to sing for 3 years was finally making music again. Not the same music she'd made before. Something different. Something new, something beautiful.